patience. And to have dogs like that at a high level, it takes minimum 2 years. And the best is when they are 3 and they can go immediately to do the work. And that's something that I see the biggest difference between dogs that I did for special forces and the green dogs we also did with my father years before. Because with the green dog, it's a little bit easier. They don't have to have so many skills. They just have to be engaged in few exercises. Searching, tracking, biting, or only searching, or only biting, or only tracking. Me, I prefer to have a dog that knows much more. And it's quite common right now to have dogs with dual purpose. But my goal was not only to have a dual purpose, but also with 3, even 4, how to say it, special skills. Like tracking, detection, explosives, bite work, and also the rest skills they have to have, like obedience. But obedience not only on the leash, but obedience with control, without the leashes, and to have a dog fully engaged in the work they have to do without any words. And this type of dogs we like to have from the puppies. That's why I also breed them to select the best to that work. And that's not easy. Yeah, later. Okay? I will try it later. Sorry. Together with my father, we trained also more than 1,000 dogs, green one, like with only 1 specialization or 2 specializations. But to have a green dog, we can have them a little bit more. 5, 10 dogs per person is okay. But to have a dog for special forces like we try to do, you have to give them a lot of time, like I said. In 2017, I finished a silver and gold school with my teachers, Michael and Bart Ballon. So it's a big honor for me to stand in front of you and to have a speech like that. So that's quite a little bit nervous also for me. From 2021, I also in charge of the program of search and rescue dogs in Poland. And right now, together with my father, we are more and more also with pet industry, and we train trainers. We do courses, we do pet training, because we see that there is a lack of knowledge, not only in dog world, but also with pet industry just to have a dog. And we like it, that's why we go more and more to that zone. But all the time in my heart is a dog for special forces. That's something what I love. And if I can do something for the rest of my life, it will be this. So, if we want to start to raise dogs for that type of work, we have to start with a good plan. And for me to have a good plan, we have to start from the finish. That's why I want to have a vision, what is at the end of that plan. How the dog should look like, how he should, how she should do the work, what type of work, what type of obedience, what commands he has to do, how he has to do, how he has to look like, how he has to bite, where and what, and so on and so on. That's why in our plan there is a few main points what we have to do. First of all is of course health. If I sell a green dog, they only ask me for the x-rays for the elbows and the hips, that's it. But if I sell my dog for the special forces, they always ask for more. That's why it's still more difficult it was for me to find a good dog for that type of work. Second thing is mental, smart, high drive. I just call it like a bullet point. What type of mentality these dogs have to have. And not only in special forces units, but also everywhere you try to go with dogs in the real world. It's a certain type of dog, but they have different mentality. There is no stop for them. Only stop is when you say, Alejandro. Because they have to go, even when there is a big fire around, they have to go. That's it. There is no stop. That's the job they have to do. Smart. Why I say they have to be smart? Because if you teach your dog how to learn not only a one skill, but learn how to learn. That's very common skillful right now for the dogs, because if you teach them how to think, if you teach them how to be smart, later it's much easier to teach them something else, to teach them more skills. And with people is the same. I find a guy that is called Jim Quick. I don't know if somebody hear about his name. No? Jim Quick is a guy that teaches people how to learn better. Learn how to learn. And I found a very common things between what I do with dogs, also what you can do with yourself, with people. That's very common. And when I have a smart dog, I can teach him very fast new things, and he adapts much faster. That's the goal, to adapt very fast. It's not only a reflex response, but also what they can do when there is a lot of stress around, how fast they can adapt to the new things they go around. High drive, and that's something everybody is looking for today. If they bite, it's not only about biting. If they play, it's not only about the play. It's how much power they give to that play. It's how high the motivation is for that. Okay? So everybody is looking for a dog with the highest drive as possible. High play drive, good aggression work, high drive for the bite in the play way. We want to have a lot of drives because that gives us a lot of motivation for the future. But not only a high drive is needed, we also need a high motivation for food. Because food gives us something else than the drive for the ball, than the drive for the bite. That gives us a less power most of the time, but that gives us also a concentration. That's something what we need in this type of work. Not only go fast, but also think what you do. Be smart. Sometimes be calm. Because if somebody came to me from Special Forces, they always want to have a calm dog. Is that right? Not too much shout, not too much barking, but a lot of calmness. If you go for the building, for the search, for the bad guy, to go for the bite, you want to have, and then you have to go. That's why we need to also have like a switch on and off. It's not only about always on the high drive. It's also about waiting for the moment until switch on and go do the work on the high level. Environmentally stable, social. And that's something crucial, especially in raising these dogs, in raising all of the dogs. There is a moment in life of the dog that you have to put a lot of effort and work for social them. Because then later it's already too late. And sometimes it's very difficult to make them social and environmentally stable later when they are older. That's very difficult. But if you start very fast, that's easy for them. That's why, like I said to you, I like to breed dogs, and I like to select dogs from my breed, because I can start as young as possible. Then, highly motivated, like I said. They have to have high motivation for everything you have. And at the end, it's not only about motivation for your reward. It's about motivation to do the job, and that's something else. Because you can have motivation for the ball, you can have motivation for the food, you can have motivation for the bite. But it's not the same to have motivation to search. It's not the same to have motivation to do healing. It's not the same as to have motivation to do different type of work. So you have to teach your dog to have motivation for everything you do with them, not only one thing. Because I saw a lot of green dogs that they have very high motivation to go for a bite, but they don't want to come back. They don't want to go out. They only want to go in. But sometimes you have to say, hey, come back. That's not a good moment for that. Sometimes they like to bark a lot because they are ready to do the job. But sometimes you have to say, shut up, quiet, sit and wait for your moment. It's the same like with us. It's not only about high drive. Sometimes we have to wait hours to do one jump, to do a 5 minutes on the high drive. Then later, the 3 main skills that we have to have is a bite, search, and obedience. Bite, it's not only about the suit bite, but also bite and aggression, the civil war. It's not only about biting, sometimes it's also about barking. Because sometimes they have to find somebody and bark and show you there is someone. Because I cannot go inside. Sometimes we have to have also a muzzle work. And muzzle work can also prepare the dog for the civil work in the future. Because there are countries, like in Europe, we cannot use everywhere the dog for the real bite. There is sometimes moments like that. That's why it's good to have another skill, the good muzzle work. And to have a good muzzle work, it also takes time. Search. And searching is not only about detection for me, it's also about tracking. To finding a person, and at the end, or I bite, or I bark, or I come back, just to show you the way where he goes. So searching is also not about searching, it's how they search. And in the last years, I stopped to do a lot of other stuff. That means I stopped to do a lot of obedience. I learned to do this for my father, and I started to think how to do it searching better. Because it's not only about go and find. Sometimes you have to have a lot of endurance, a lot of stamina. Because searching is not only for 500 meters, sometimes can be for 2, 3, 4 kilometers. And they have to be ready for that. It's like with us, with our physical activity. If you are ready, if you train a lot of times to be in a good shape, then there is a one moment that you have to give from you more, you're ready for that. But if you are not training for that moment, and this moment comes, I'm not in good shape. Is that correct? Yes. Sometimes it is like that. Then there is a young guy that is running like hell, and I cannot handle him. So the dogs have to be also in a good shape. So for me, I like to have a dog that is searching with a closed mouth. And you have to teach the dog how to do it. You have to teach the dog that if he searches for 30, 40, 50 minutes with a closed mouth, then he's ready. But if you go for a small search and the dog is searching for 2 minutes, and after 2 minutes he's tired, he's not ready. Even if he's 3, even if he's 4, 5 years old. But if he's searching with an open mouth and like this, he will find it only in 3 times. I love that sentence from Bob. Not today, not tomorrow, never. Because most of the time these dogs are going to do the work, it's heat, it's very hot, it's a lot of environmental stress, it's different type of the training. That's why they have to be prepared for that. And as you know, I know how you train also. Sometimes you have to train for 6 months to do the one job. I know how it works. And the same is with the dog. To keep them on the high level of training to later to do the job, even if there is a lot of stress, even if there is a lot of environmental problems. Obedience. And for me, obedience with this dog has to be without the leash at the end. The dog should work with you. However you go, he has to be next to you. And if you say attack, you have to go. If you say search, you have to go. But if you say come back, you have to come back also. It's not like to be crazy for the bite and to be crazy for the search. But you have to have balance. You have to be crazy to go and come back. If you have balance, the life is easy. For me, I cannot imagine if I have to go and do the job in the high stress and to think all the time, is my dog next to me? It's impossible. Because when you think all the time, if the dog is next to me, you cannot do your work as an operator. You have to do your work, and the dog has to do his own work. That's why obedience is also very important. And obedience should not, hey, fuck, you have to be here. Obedience should be, I'm happy to be here, to later to go for a bite. I'm happy to be here next to you to go for the search. And I think people that are doing a sport training on a high level, they understand it very well. Because if they want to win, the dog is without any tools, and he has to be happy to be on the healing, and he has to be happy to go for a bite. And I saw too many handlers in the law enforcement that they are not, how to say, they don't have so much control on the dog to be with them. A lot of times I saw the dog loves to do the job, but he doesn't love to be next to the handler without any tools, without any leashes. And that's important for me, because if I have a control on my dog and he wants to be next to me, even if there is a lot of distractions around, I can do my work. I can do my job. And I'm not thinking all the time what I have to do to keep my dog calm and next to me. He has to be ready to be with you, and then later to go to do the job. And the sixth one is physically strong. And also, like we are going to the gym to be a physical fit and strong, is the same with dogs. We have to do certain type of exercises to make them stronger, to make them feel better. It's not only to do the job, it's also in conditioning the body to do the work. So that's for me a main point for my plan. How the dog should look at the end. And we talk about skills, and I try to put the skills in few points. First, bite, grip, aggression, muzzle,